Alina dropped the bundle on the kitchen counter. Silk lace and perfume rose like a second slap. "Mom, take the chance to wash these while we're out shopping," she said already, halfway to the door. Gloria laughed. "We'll be back before lunch." "Don't strain yourself." The door shut behind them. Heels clacked on concrete. Then silence. I stood there, holding the bundle her underwear. A cream blouse I'd seen on some influencer. A cardigan I'd never afford. The fabric was warm from her arms. I didn't speak, didn't flinch. Just carried it to the sink. "The washer was broken," she said. "I had one in the apartment." That made me the laundress, apparently. The bundle was heavier than it looked. Not in weight, in meaning. I pressed the clothes against my chest, then unrolled the sleeves. I hadn't asked if anything needed special care. I just assumed it all did. She'd been calling me Mom more lately. Not Maris like when we first met. Not Mrs. Caldwell-like Gloria still used sometimes with a smirk. Mom was meant to soften the edges before a request. I filled the basin with warm water, added a splash of detergent, and tested it with my fingers. The water bit cold at first, then softened. My hands moved automatically, soak, press, lift, don't ring. Outside the blinds, the Seattle sky hung low and gray. Perfect weather for being forgotten indoors. They'd both worn heels and cashmere. Alina's hair was set in waves, makeup subtle but polished. I'd seen Gloria's scarf on a display window downtown last week, $480 before tax. I remembered because I'd winced at the price tag. The faucet dripped. I didn't fix it, just kept working. No one asked how I slept, if my arthritis flared, if I wanted to come along. I was 64, not helpless. But lately, they treated me like I was something in the way until they needed me. A sitter, a laundress, a backup credit line. I didn't argue. Ryan always said I took things too personally. Alina means well, he'd tell me, half listening. I wrung out a camisole gently and laid it on a towel. Then another. A row of delicate things, none of them mine. It wasn't the first time she'd brought laundry. But this time, she hadn't even asked. She assigned it, with her mother standing there. And I let it happen, because it was easier than refusing. Because Ryan's face flashed in my mind, tight jaw, sighing apology. Because I wasn't ready to start a fight in front of Gloria. I folded the towel edges, started a second basin. The water clouded with foundation from a neckline. One tag flipped over as I lifted a blouse. Gold stitching. French. Not knockoff. It didn't fit a medical student's budget. I paused just long enough to feel it. Then I went back to rinsing. I scraped the last bit of rice into a plastic container and snapped the lid shut. The kitchen was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the soft clink of my fork on the plate. One chair pulled out. One setting. One cold cup of coffee going untouched beside the sink. I hadn't received a message. Not a call. Not a text. Just silence. Until the photo showed up. Ryan's smile filled the frame, his arm around Alina, who leaned into him with her practiced tilt. Gloria sat beside them. Wine glass raised, surrounded by relatives I barely recognized. Table dressed in cream linens. Candles. Laughter. A round of toasted bread and shrimp. The caption read, "Family is everything. Blessed beyond words." There were 6 people at the table. 7 chairs. I wasn't one of them. I stared at the screen thumb hovering over the image. My son's eyes looked so much like his father's. But Robert never would have let this happen. He'd always made room, always noticed. Even when we were tired, broke, stretched thin, he saved me a seat. I closed the app. Opened it again, just to be sure I hadn't missed something. A comment. A tag. A mention. Nothing. I stood up too fast. The chair legs scraped the tile. I carried my plate to the sink, ran water over it without really seeing. My hands moved out of habit. Rinse, stack, wipe. I'd done it 1,000 times. I poured the cold coffee out, rinsed the mug, dried it with the corner of a dish towel. The mug said, Cedar Ridge Medical, 25 years of service. They gave it to me the day I retired. I didn't cry, didn't pace, just stood for a moment in the center of the kitchen, everything spotless, everything small. I'd offered to cook tonight. Told Alina 2 days ago I could make the lasagna she liked. She smiled and said they had a thing with Gloria's side, but maybe next week. I knew better. Next week would come with another excuse, another missed seat. Back in the living room, I sat and flipped through channels I didn't care about. Something buzzed on the counter. I got up, slowly checked the phone. A notification. Group message, not mine. They'd tagged Gloria. Thanks for the beautiful dinner, Mom. Alina posted a second story boomerang clip, wine glass clink. She captioned it with a heart. I turned the phone face down. The room felt tighter than before. Smaller. I thought about how I used to host all the big meals. Easter brunch, 4th of July, Ryan's birthdays. I still had the serving trays stored under the hall cabinet. Still had the linen napkins folded by color. Nobody asked for them anymore. I stood, pulled a cardigan over my shoulders. The wind outside rattled the screen a little. In the closet, a blue box held old photos. I opened it. Found one of Ryan, age 7 arms, smeared in frosting cheeks, puffed with cake. My hand in the corner of the frame, blurry but there. I put the photo back, turned off the kitchen light, went to bed early. I opened the cabinet and pulled down the tin of coffee grounds. Voices filtered in from the next room. Alina's on speaker, sharp, fast, laughing. She still wears those stiff trousers from the 90s. Gloria said she looks like a substitute teacher stuck in 2003. Another laugh, tighter. She means, well, I know, but I can't dress her and pay for dry cleaning too. Ryan's voice followed, quieter. She's just set in her ways. No defense, no pushback, just that. I set the tin down without making the coffee. They didn't know I was home. I'd come in early from the grocery store. I hadn't even taken off my shoes. I stayed still, listened. She wants to help Alina, said, her tone turning sugary. And she is helping, so let her feel useful. The transfer went through, right? Ryan murmured something I couldn't hear. I stepped back into the hallway, careful not to creak the floor. They were talking about the condo. 3 years ago, when they were short on the down payment, I'd written a check quietly, without strings. Ryan had promised it was temporary, just a boost. Then, last fall, another deposit. And again, in spring. Just for stability, he'd said, to keep our credit clean. They called it help. It felt like duty. In the kitchen, I finally made the coffee. Poured the hot water slow. Watched the steam rise. I carried the mug to the porch and sat. The air was cool, not cold. My knees ached, but I didn't adjust. I let the heat of the mug do its work. Across the street, a kid tried to ride a scooter with one hand while holding a juice box. I watched him circle until he tipped and landed on the grass. He got up, wiped his hands, tried again. Inside, a door clicked shut. Alina's heels moved toward the hallway. Silence followed. She didn't know I'd heard. I didn't plan to tell her. I sipped, held it in my mouth longer than usual. Ryan had once told me I was the most consistent person in his life. He said it like praise, but I was starting to hear the weight in that word. Consistent. Not exciting, not exceptional, just reliable. The one who still shows up, the one who pays the difference. That afternoon, Alina knocked gently and asked if I could drive with her to pick up dry cleaning. I said I had plans. I didn't. I just didn't want to sit in the passenger seat while she hummed along to pop songs and scrolled through coupons on her phone. I stayed home and made a list of monthly bank transfers. One by one, I wrote them out by hand. Dates, amounts, descriptions. Then I opened the side drawer, slid the paper in, and closed it. Some cuts don't bleed right away. That night, I saw Ryan on the balcony alone. He had a drink in his hand, eyes out over the neighborhood. I stood behind the curtain for a moment before letting it fall back. I didn't join him. I turned out the light in my bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed. The faucet in the bathroom dripped slow and steady through the silence. I opened the banking app and blinked. 420 A's. 75, Haven Spa and Skin. 212.90, Marlowe Boutique. 71.60, Downtown Sushi Lounge. Another $98 at some place called Glow Bar. The card was supposed to be for emergencies, medical mostly, a tire replacement, a hospital copay. Once Ryan used it when their heater broke. I didn't complain. But this wasn't a flat tire or a cold night. This was a massage, a tasting menu, and a boutique blouse. I scrolled further. The charges weren't new. They went back weeks, some months, each small enough not to set off an alert. But they added up. I called Ryan. He picked up fast. "Hey, Mom, everything okay?" I saw some charges on the card, I said, keeping my voice even. "Spa visits? Restaurants?" "Oh, yeah, he said quickly. "That's just Alina. It's for her clinicals. She needs to look professional. She's buying skin treatments to look professional." He exhaled like I'd missed the point. "Mom, she's in front of people all day. Patients. Doctors. It's image, first impressions. That card wasn't meant for clothes and facials. Come on, don't make this a thing. It's not like we're reckless." I didn't answer. He went on softer. "You always said to ask if we needed help. We didn't want to bother you, so we just used the card. That's all." I said nothing. "We'll slow it down," he promised. "Seriously, just let her finish out the semester. Then we can reevaluate." I hung up before saying something I couldn't take back. I didn't trust my voice. That night I pulled the statement again and printed it. Line by line, date, vendor, amount. I highlighted anything over $100. Then I took a red pen and circled the spa charges. Next, I went to the hall closet and pulled out a folder, thin faded green. Inside were my pay stubs from my final year at the hospital. I flipped to one. $1,842.27 after taxes. 1 week of work. 1 spa visit. Same number. I placed the printout next to it. Closed the folder. Tied the ribbon. The doorbell rang the next morning. It was a delivery driver holding a garment bag. He smiled. "Caldwell." I nodded. "Signature here." He handed over a sleek bag with gold lettering. The kind high-end stores use. I didn't open it, just carried it inside and hung it on the doorknob. 2 hours later, Alina came in talking loudly on the phone. She barely glanced at me. Then she spotted the bag. "Oh, good. That's my rotation outfit." They overnighted it, saved me a trip. She didn't ask how it got paid for, didn't thank me, just unzipped it, smiled and disappeared into the bedroom. I stood there with my cup of coffee cooling in my hand, the red pen still open on the table. The charges hadn't slowed. They'd just learned to keep them below $500. I watched the bedroom door shut. My hand tightened on the mug. In the living room, the curtain shifted with a breeze from the open window. A receipt fluttered off the console table. I picked it up. It wasn't mine. I dipped the blouse again and pressed the suds through the silk. Warm water, light detergent, flat hands. No twisting, no stretching. Just control. The fabric slid through my fingers like it had somewhere better to be. A second blouse followed. Pale peach, nearly sheer. I laid it across the towel and rolled it tight, pressing moisture out slowly. Then unrolled it, careful not to crease. I moved on to the skirt. Dark navy, pencil cut, heavy for its size. That's when I saw the tag. I flipped the hem gently and froze. Mariette Noir. Not knockoff, not outlet. Real. I knew the name. Alina had posted a photo last month, mirror selfie champagne heels, a caption with hashtags. Sure Mariette style. Sure client ready. Sure women in medicine. The blouse in the photo shimmered. This one shimmered too. She'd tagged the brand, tagged the location. Tagged Gloria. She hadn't tagged me. I rubbed my thumb over the stitching. Gold thread double line. These weren't clothes you picked up at the mall. This was boutique pricing. 1 skirt could clear a rent check. 2 could pay a month of groceries. I pressed the tag flat on the towel and stared at it for a long time. Then I pulled out the small desk drawer near the hallway. Inside, envelopes, bank stubs, and a spare key to the mailbox. I tucked the tag into a white envelope, sealed it, and slid it to the back of the drawer. I didn't write anything on it. I just knew I'd need it. The door opened down the hall. Alina's voice filtered in, laughing rushed. Gloria's voice overlapped hers, smooth and easy. They came in with shopping bags. Alina called out, "Hey, did the navy one dry? Yet I might need it for tomorrow." I didn't answer right away. I finished rinsing my hands, dried them on a dish towel, and walked to the laundry rack. "It's still damp," I said. "Might need another few hours." She didn't look disappointed. "That's fine. I've got backup." She swung a bag onto the table and unwrapped a pair of heels, white leather pointed toe. I glanced at the box. Tag still attached, 300T. Gloria flipped through a boutique catalog beside her. We popped into Du Lumiere. Couldn't resist. Alina smiled. "It's good to invest in the right look." I nodded once and returned to the sink. Ryan came home late that night, tie askew, eyes tired. We crossed paths in the hallway. I handed him the mail. He thanked me, then paused. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Fine," I said. He waited like he knew I had something more. I didn't give it to him. Instead, I walked back into the kitchen and put the kettle on. Coffee this time. Black. No sugar. As it brewed, I opened my phone and scrolled until I found the post again. The Mariette Noir blouse. The caption. The comments. 32 likes. One said, "Love this investment piece." Another, "Wish I could afford this life." I stared at that one. Then I closed the phone, poured the coffee, and took a sip. In the hallway, the envelope sat undisturbed. I could see the corner of it through the drawer gap. Tomorrow, I'd start labeling each envelope, not just with numbers, but names, dates, evidence. If they wanted to build something on my back, I'd at least keep the receipts. I spread the statements across the kitchen table. Dates, amounts, vendors. Highlighted lines bleeding yellow and pink. Spa visits, boutique charges, sushi, overnight delivery fees. The pattern stretched back months. I pulled a box of receipts from the hall closet and dumped it out. Grocery slips, oil changes. Prescription co-pays. My handwriting on each note in the margin. Rent, utilities. Ryan. One by one, I matched charges to bank alerts. I wrote the totals on a legal pad. My pen dug so hard the paper tore. Midnight ticked over on the microwave clock. I didn't stop. This was the part of my old job I'd always been good at. Order from chaos. Records neat enough to make an auditor smile. No one ever thanked me for that skill. They just expected it. Now it was mine to use. Outside, a car door shut. A neighbor's dog barked once, then quieted. The building went still. I opened another envelope, my own credit card statement, highlighted every charge over 50, cross-checked with Alina's posts, dates, outfits, hashtags. The overlap was perfect. I built a folder. Household support. Inside, I slipped copies of the condo mortgage transfers. Another folder. Emergency card. Into it went screenshots of spa appointments and boutique pickups. I labeled a third tags. Only one item inside so far, the Mariette Noir tag sealed in its envelope. I closed the folders, stacked them by size, then opened them again, checking each page twice. I wasn't tired. My body ached, but my head felt clear. A soft knock tapped on the sliding door. I startled, then exhaled. Daniel stood outside in a faded sweatshirt, hands tucked in his pockets. I slid the door open a few inches. "You're up late," he said quietly. "Just sorting," I replied. His eyes drifted to the table, the folders, the highlighter. "You're doing more than sorting." I didn't answer. He hesitated. "If you need help, I'm fine." I cut in softer than it sounded. He nodded once. "All right." He stepped back. "Lock up when you're done." "I will." He left without another word. I closed the door, slid the lock, and went back to the table. When Ryan was a boy, he'd sit with me while I balanced the checkbook. He liked watching the columns of numbers line up. "It's like a puzzle," he used to say. I'd smile and say, "Exactly." Now the puzzle was his. I stapled the printouts, tucked the legal pad inside the main folder, and wrote a date on the front. Not the whole story, just the beginning. I placed the folders in a canvas bag and slid it under the couch cushion. The house was silent. The screen of my phone glowed faintly with another bank alert, another charge posted tonight. I opened it, took a screenshot, and slipped the phone into my pocket. Then I picked up my mug, poured the rest of the coffee down the sink, and reached for another envelope. I paused halfway down the hall when I heard my name. The kitchen door was half open. Gloria's voice came first, clear, polished, confident. "She won't push back. She never does. You've got everything lined up." Ryan's voice followed lower, uncertain. "We're still waiting on the signature." Alina cut in. "She just needs to sign the transfer papers. After that, we're set." Set. That word echoed. I froze. My heart hit my ribs. I leaned slightly forward, careful not to let the floorboard groan. "Do not rush," her Gloria said. "Ease her into it. Let her think it's about streamlining. You're her son Ryan. Use that." He didn't respond right away. Alina filled the space. "We've handled everything else. The account access, the automatic payments, even the insurance switch. Once the house is transferred, we're done playing games." Gloria laughed. "Then you'll be landlords with options." The sound of forks clinking followed. I realized they were eating lunch at my kitchen table, using my dishes. Ryan finally spoke. "It still feels weird." Alina snapped. "She gave you that card without blinking. You think she even remembers half of what she pays for?" "She remembers," I said quietly. Not loud enough to reach them. Just to myself. I stepped back, toes, finding the edge of the rug, then turned and walked silently to my room. Closed the door, sat on the edge of the bed and tried to breathe. The folders were still under the cushion in the living room. The bank alerts still fresh. But hearing them plan it like a done deal that was something else. They didn't even bother whispering. I thought about the mail I'd signed last week. A stack of papers Ryan had handed over casually. Just routine updates, he'd said. I'd skimmed, initialed, signed. I'd trusted. I stood and walked to the closet. Pulled down a shoebox with every important document I'd ever kept: marriage certificate, Robert's death certificate, Ryan's birth records, the original deed to this condo. I checked for anything recent, anything missing. Then I found the insurance forms, a note from Ryan in the corner. Signed, "Thanks, Mom." No copy of what I'd signed. I sat on the floor, laid the documents out. One by one. No title transfer yet. That much was still true. But I was close. Too close. I folded everything back. Tight. Neat. Muscle memory from years of paperwork. Then I picked up the phone and opened the voice memo app. Created a new file. Labeled it lunch. I walked to the hallway again. The laughter had faded. I didn't press record. Not yet. Just stood there letting the weight of their words settle across my chest. Gloria had said I wouldn't push back. Alina had said I wouldn't notice. They were both right until now. I turned, walked into the bathroom, and splashed water on my face. In the mirror, my eyes looked tired, but clear. I toweled off, walked into the living room and slid the shoebox under the couch next to the folders. Then I opened my drawer and pulled out another envelope. This one, I marked in red. House. Not yet transferred. I sealed it. Placed it on top. That was when the text came in. Ryan's name flashed on the screen. Just 2 words. Need signature. I tapped the edge of the envelope twice, then placed it back in the drawer. Then I called him. He answered quick. Hey, Mom. Hi, sweetheart. I was just going over the bank statements. Pause. Oh, I noticed a few new vendors on the emergency card. Spa charges, bar classes, a sushi place. Another pause longer. Then, yeah, that's just Alina managing her schedule. She's running nonstop, Mom. Clinicals, residency interviews, side jobs. It's a lot. I thought the card was for medical costs. Car repairs. Things like that. It is, he said quickly. But look, it's easier this way. If she runs into something, she handles it. No delays. His voice sounded practiced, like he'd said the line before. And she has the login I asked. Only because she's keeping track for both of us. She's better at that stuff. I didn't speak. He filled the silence. You've always helped. This just takes pressure off. It's not a big deal. Have you looked at the totals, Mom? I mean it. Have you looked? His tone dropped. Do you not want to help us anymore? There it was. The shift from logic to guilt. I swallowed. It's not that. Because Alina's under pressure. You've always said she's hardworking. You've been so generous, I'm still being generous. I heard myself say it. Calm. Flat. He didn't respond. I ended the call, gently told him I had errands to run, and hung up. No anger. No confrontation. Just that quiet shift. The one where I stopped explaining. I walked to the kitchen and opened the folder again. Wrote down the call. Date. Time. What he said. What he didn't say. It's easier if she handles it. Easier. I folded the note, added it to the envelope marked card. Activity. Then I pulled the curtain back and watched them unload groceries from Gloria's car. Fresh flowers. French bread. A chilled bottle of white wine. 2 bags from the boutique downtown. Ryan carried everything without looking up. Alina handed him things like she was passing props. They moved like a machine. Well-oiled, comfortable automatic. I stepped away from the window and turned off the stove. I hadn't started anything. I just didn't want them asking what I was cooking. I didn't want them asking anything. That night, I made coffee late. Strong. No cream. The kitchen light cast long shadows across the counter. My hands smelled faintly of lemon from cleaning. I checked the bank again. 2 more charges. 1 for a dress rental service. 1 for a pre-interview facial package. I took screenshots. Printed both. Then I texted Daniel. Just a short line. Can I ask a favor? He replied within seconds. Of course. What do you need? I didn't answer yet. I just placed the printed pages into the envelope, folded it closed, taped the top shut. Then I wrote a new label. Moments. He didn't question. The next morning, Alina left a sticky note on the fridge. Could you pick up dry cleaning if you have time? No greeting. No please. Just a request, like I was staff. I peeled the note off. Placed it in the same envelope. I heard the knock before the door opened. Mom. You home, Alina? Voice bright, fake sweet. I was folding towels on the couch. Forgot something, she said, breezing past. My phone, I must have left it here earlier. She checked the counter, the coffee table, under a stack of catalogs. Nothing. I stayed silent. Then I nodded toward the side table. There. She grabbed it fast, barely glanced at me. Thanks, she chirped, already walking out. Crisis averted. The door shut. Her perfume lingered, but she didn't know what I'd seen. 2 hours earlier, the screen had lit up beside my coffee mug. Message preview, Rick. So when do we get her to sell? I hadn't meant to look, but the phone was unlocked. Open. Waiting. So I did. 1 scroll turned into 2, then 20. Texts from Rick. Recent. Casual. Familiar. Rick. She's soft. Play the long game. Once the deed's in your name, we can flip it. You're doing great. Keep the son loyal. Then a photo. Me blurry in the background of a brunch pic. Captioned, "She's still clueless. For now." More texts. Alina. "She thinks it's all for Ryan. She'll sign soon. I asked for another spa trip. She didn't even blink. After the transfer, I'll nudge the trust." The trust. My hands shook. Not from fear, but rage. I tapped into her photo album. Screenshots. A draft of a letter of intent she'd written to Ryan, trying to convince him that putting the condo fully in her name was practical. Another folder. Strategy. In it, notes, timelines, steps. Even a script for what Ryan should say to me if I got suspicious. I backed out, locked the screen, set the phone down. Then I sat. Just sat. For a long time. My coffee went cold. I didn't cry. I pulled the folder from under the couch and added a new envelope. Phone, 9:47 a.m. Inside, I wrote down the phrases I could remember word for word. I didn't need screenshots. I had the sequence. I had the names. I had intent. I folded the paper, labeled it in red. Then I pulled out another envelope and wrote, "Motive, outside Ryan." Because this wasn't just about influence anymore. It wasn't just Alina whispering ideas into my son's ear. This was her plan, with someone else. And Ryan, he was the tool. Not the partner. He didn't know. Not yet. But I did. By the time she came to retrieve the phone, I'd already memorized the proof. Her smile meant nothing. Her voice slid off me like water off wax paper. She shut the door behind her and didn't look back. I went to the sink, dumped the cold coffee, and rinsed the mug. Then I texted Daniel again. "Can we meet tomorrow?" He replied, "Morning, okay. Yes." I turned off the lights, left only the hall lamp glowing. Then I pulled one last envelope from the drawer. Transfer attempt, delay, and under it in small letters. They're running out of time. My phone buzzed hard on the table, rattling against the wood. I glanced down. Push notification. Alert withdrawal attempt, $52,000. Another line appeared beneath it. Draft transfer request, Caldwell property title. I pressed my thumb to open the app. The screen filled with red text. Pending authorization. Unusual activity. I sat back. Felt the kitchen chair cool against my arms. My breath slowed, not sped. I had expected this. I scrolled down. Date. Time. Device used. Ryan's IP. They were moving faster now. I closed the app, turned the phone face down. Let the silence settle over me. Years ago, after Robert died, I'd sat at this same table with an attorney from the hospital. She'd asked if I had plans for the condo, for the small savings I'd scraped together. "Protect it?" she'd said. "Grief makes people sloppy." I'd listened. I'd created a living trust, quietly transferred the deed, set up a second account with Daniel as backup contact. No one knew but me and the lawyer. Not Ryan, not Alina, not Gloria. They were clawing at an empty shell. I got up, walked to the sink, and washed my hands. The water ran warm. I dried them on a towel and looked out the window. Across the street, Daniel was unloading groceries from his car. He glanced up, saw me, gave a small nod. He didn't wave. We never made a show of it. I texted him, "It's started." He replied, "Stay calm. We'll meet." I set the phone down, poured fresh coffee, and sat again. The taste was bitter. I didn't add sugar. I opened my file folder, added a new sheet, attempted withdrawal, 11:16 a.m., title transfer request, 11:18 a.m., underneath in small letters, trust deed secured 2018, non-revocable. I slid the sheet into the envelope marked transfer attempt, sealed it. My hands no longer shook. They felt steady, like when I used to set up crash carts at the hospital before a code, calm before the storm. I thought about the phone messages I'd read from Rick, the way Alina had written, "She'll sign soon," the way Gloria had said, use that. They believed I was still the same woman who signed papers blind, the same woman who folded their laundry without question. But every piece they thought they controlled was paper I'd already moved. I finished my coffee, rinsed the mug, placed it upside down on the rack. The house was quiet, except for the low hum of the fridge. In the living room, the folders were stacked in a canvas bag, ready. Tomorrow I'd take them to Louise Chan for safekeeping. A car door slammed outside. Alina's laugh floated up the stairwell, then Ryan's deeper tone. They were back from somewhere. Shopping bags rustled, keys jingled. I straightened the stack of papers on the table, then slipped them back under the couch cushion. The knock would come any second. The request for a signature. The smile, the script. I wiped my hands once more on the dish towel and waited for the sound of their steps in the hall. I dialed before I could second guess it. "Daniel," I said, "I'm ready." He didn't ask ready for what. "I'll be over in 10, he said. I pulled the canvas bag from under the couch, zipped it shut, and grabbed my folder from the kitchen drawer. The documents were organized, labeled time-stamped. I checked the envelopes one last time. Still sealed. Still mine. The knock came exactly 10 minutes later. I opened the door. He stepped in without a word. We didn't sit. We went straight to the dining table. "Start with the card," I said. He nodded, logged in on his tablet. "You want to freeze it or shut it down completely?" "Shut it down. Permanently." He typed, clicked, waited, done. "They'll lose access within the hour." I slid over a list. "They're also connected to my main account through auto payments. Cancel those." He scanned. Gloria's boutique subscription, gone. Monthly transfers to Ryan's joint account, gone. He moved fast. I moved faster. I pulled out the trust document. "This is the deed, secured under my name, held in trust since 2018. I want Louise Chan to see it." He nodded. "Already texted her. Noon tomorrow. Her office." I closed the file and leaned back. My shoulders didn't ache the way they used to. Daniel looked at me. "You're sure about all this?" "I'm done being polite." He nodded once. No smile, just respect. We kept working. Changed passwords. Set up two-step authentication. Added backup emails. I showed him the printouts of Alina's texts. I didn't read them again. He didn't need me to. "They crossed a line," he said. "They crossed 10. He leaned forward. "I know you want to be quiet about this, but if it gets louder, I won't be the one shouting," I said. "But I won't be the one folding either." He helped me pack everything into a secure folder. Set up a backup copy on a flash drive. Labeled it plainly Maris, Trust and Defense. I slipped it into a jewelry box and tucked it behind old rings no one ever asked about. "Thank you," I said, voice low. Daniel stood. "You don't owe me thanks. You owe yourself peace." We locked up everything, checked twice, then walked to the front door. Before he left, he paused. "You good?" "Not yet," I said, "but close." He nodded and walked down the steps. I watched his taillights disappear, then shut the door. Back inside, the fridge hummed. The light above the sink buzzed faintly. I poured myself coffee. No cream, no sugar. The app on my phone dinged. Final confirmation. Card canceled. Access revoked. I tapped. Save then slid the phone onto the counter. In the hallway, Alina's heels clicked on the floor above. She didn't know yet, but soon she would. I left the machine running mid-cycle. Towels half folded on the chair clothes soaking in rinse. I grabbed the canvas bag, double-checked the folders, and stepped into my shoes without laces. By the time I reached Louise Chan's office, the sky had turned overcast. She opened the door herself. Sharp gray suit, no small talk. "Let's sit," she said. I laid the folders on the glass desk. One by one, I opened them. Trust deed, transfer history, statement logs, the attempted withdrawal alert, the texts I transcribed, Every note, every envelope labeled in my handwriting. She flipped through quickly but thoroughly. You've done more than most before they even hire me. I've been doing the work I said. She nodded once, then pulled a fresh packet from her drawer. Let's talk about the will. I had one. Outdated. Ryan was the primary. That changed today. I signed new documents, reassigned the condo, shifted the remaining funds into the trust, changed medical power of attorney to Daniel, left a sealed letter for Ryan, no copies, no digital version. She filed everything in silence, clipped it, notarized. This is protected, now, she said. No one touches it unless you say so. I'm saying so now. Her lips pressed into a tight line of approval. From her office, we drove to the bank. Quiet ride. No music. I sat straight, hands still. At the bank, I asked for a safe deposit box, showed my ID, signed, followed the woman down the carpeted hallway to a tiny steel room. Inside, I placed 3 things. The flash drive Daniel helped me encrypt, a second copy of the will, the envelope labeled, "If I'm not believed." I locked the box, signed again, pocketed the key. Back home, the laundry cycle had finished without me. I emptied the washer, folded the towels. Slow, precise. Alina came in halfway through, holding her phone like a shield. She looked at the pile. Thanks, she said flatly. I've got a dress that needs steaming too. I didn't answer. I folded the last towel, placed it on top, and moved past her toward the kitchen. My mug waited still warm from earlier. I took a sip. She said something behind me. I didn't catch it. Didn't need to. I walked into my room, opened the drawer, and crossed out one label with a single stroke. Transfer attempt. Handled. Then I picked up a new envelope. Wrote 2 words. Waiting game. The text came through while I was sweeping the kitchen. Alina. Do you know why the card's not working? Weird glitch at checkout. I didn't reply. 15 minutes later, I heard the front door open harder than usual. Voices sharp, too loud. I told you it was fine this morning, Alina said. Gloria's heels clicked close behind. Don't snap at me, dear. Just call the bank. I'm telling you it's their fault. A bag hit the counter. The salesgirl looked at me like I was trying to scam them. In front of everyone. My card declined twice. I had to use my account. I shouldn't have to use my account. Ryan came down the stairs slowly, still adjusting his shirt. What happened? Alina turned to him. Your mother shut down the card. He looked at me. Is that true? I met his eyes. It was time. His mouth opened closed, then turned into a flat line. Alina didn't wait. Time for what you left us standing in a store like beggars. It was humiliating. I didn't move. It was a card for emergencies. This wasn't one. Gloria crossed her arms. Maris, you could have said something. I did, I said quietly. You weren't listening. They stared. I picked up the broom again, swept the last line of dust into the pan. Alina's tone dropped more controlled now. Look, we've just had a lot going on. I needed interview clothes. It was never meant to take advantage of you. I dumped the dust into the bin. You already did. Ryan stepped forward. Mom, can we talk privately? I didn't answer. I walked past him and poured coffee into my mug. Alina exhaled loudly. It's not like we drained your account. I mean, we didn't think you'd notice every charge. She realized the mistake too late. I looked up, but I did. No one spoke. Outside, a lawnmower started. Inside, you could hear the fridge click on. I'll pay it back, Ryan said, but his voice lacked weight. You won't, I replied, because it's not about the money. I took the mug and walked to the hallway, closed my door, sat on the edge of the bed and listened as their voices lowered then stopped altogether. The silence that followed didn't feel peaceful. It felt like pressure, like something about to break. I opened my notebook, turned to a new page, and wrote, Chapter begins. Visible crack. Then I added the date, the amount she tried to charge, and a note. humiliation in public. They blamed the system, not themselves. I placed the notebook back in the drawer, walked to the closet, pulled out the blouse I hadn't worn in 2 years, pressed the collar flat with my hands, hung it on the back of the door. Tomorrow I would wear it. Not for them, for the meeting, the one they didn't know was coming. I packed at dawn, no suitcase, just canvas bags, folders, a jewelry box, the flash drive, 2 cardigans, my mug. I left the towels folded, dishes washed, bed made, drawers empty. By 8:00 a.m., Daniel was at the curb. I locked the door, slid the keys into an envelope, and placed them on the counter. 2 letters beside them, one for Alina, one for Gloria. Short, direct. No apologies, no explanations, just boundaries. At Daniel's, I didn't speak much. I placed the bag by the couch, made coffee, sat in his kitchen while he worked at his laptop. The silence was clean, no tension. At 2:14 p.m., I got the first call. Ryan. I let it ring. Then came a text. Where are you? Did you leave? Another from Alina. Is this some stunt? Where's the folder? I turned off my phone. Daniel looked over once, saw my face, and said nothing. Outside, the wind picked up. A few yellow leaves skittered across the porch. By evening, Daniel made grilled cheese. I ate half. He didn't ask questions. He handed me a blanket and said, "You're not alone." At 7:43 p.m., I checked the security cam feed from the hallway. They had come back. Gloria went in first, Alina behind her. Ryan trailed, phone still in hand. They moved through the apartment fast, opened cabinets, opened drawers, pulled closet doors wide. Gloria turned in a slow circle, said something I couldn't hear. Alina lifted the envelope from the counter, read hers first, mouth tight. Ryan picked up mine. His shoulders dropped. He looked older in that moment than he ever had. Alina started pacing. Gloria leaned on the counter, arms crossed. No one smiled. No one laughed. They hadn't expected this. They'd expected a tantrum, not an exit. They stood in the middle of a spotless room with nothing left to hold over me. I watched them from Daniel's kitchen blanket wrapped around my legs, coffee cooling beside me. I didn't rewind the footage. I didn't need to. I'd lived the lead up. I knew the lines by heart. Now the scene was theirs. Mine had already moved on. I arrived 5 minutes early. Ryan opened the door like nothing had happened. Button-down shirt, forced smile. Glad you came, Mom. I stepped inside, handed him the envelope. The dining table was already set. Napkins folded. Wine uncorked. Alina stood near the kitchen, adjusting her blouse like the room was too tight. Gloria poured sparkling water with too much care. 2 guests sat at the end of the table. Ryan's colleagues from the clinic introduced quickly. Their names already gone from my mind. They smiled, polite, clueless. I sat where they'd clearly meant me to sit. At the far end, a soft chair, no arms. Not the host seat. Not the center. Ryan raised his glass. Before we eat, I just wanted to say, family is complicated but worth fighting for. I let him speak. Let Alina nod along. Let Gloria wear that polished expression she'd mastered in every room with money. Then I stood. I reached into my bag and pulled out the 3 envelopes, laid them flat. I brought something too. Ryan blinked. Mom, maybe after no. Now. I opened the first envelope. March 3rd, purchase at Leora Spa, $380. March 7th, Taylor, $112. March 9th, facial package, $415. All charged to the emergency card. None of these were discussed with me. The table went still. I turned to the second envelope. April 18th, text from Alina to Rick. Once the deed is signed, we move fast. April 22nd, she won't question it. She trusts me. One of Ryan's colleagues glanced at the other. I turned to Alina. I read every word. And before you tell me they were taken out of context, I wrote them down the moment I saw them. I no longer have access to the original device. It wasn't mine to begin with. Alina's face went cold. You went through my phone. You left it unlocked in my home. You were planning to sell it out from under me. Gloria leaned in. Let's not do this here. I looked at her. You already did. Then I opened the final envelope, pulled out the document with Louise Chan's embossed seal. This is the trust deed. The property was secured 6 years ago. The account was never in your name. The title can't be touched. And as of last week, all access has been revoked legally, permanently. Ryan's face flushed. You didn't trust me. I looked at him. You made that choice for me. No one spoke. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't shake. I just folded the documents again, slow and calm, and slid them back into the folder. Alina opened her mouth, then shut it again. The wine sat untouched. Gloria reached for her glass but didn't drink. One of Ryan's colleagues cleared his throat. Maybe we should head out. No, I said. Dinner's served. I stood, placed the folder in my bag, and pushed in my chair. They didn't stop me. Not a word. I walked to the door, opened it, and stepped into the quiet night. They came after me. Not outside, not that bold. But in texts. One after the other. Ryan. Why would you do that in front of everyone? You made us look crazy. Alina. You completely misrepresented the situation. You embarrassed Ryan in front of his colleagues. Gloria, nothing. Just a single thumbs down emoji. Sent hours later. I didn't reply. Daniel made coffee that night. Strong. No words, just the clink of ceramic, the hum of the kettle. I sat at his kitchen table. Folder unopened beside me. The same one I'd carried into their dinner and out of it again. Across the city, their own dinner had collapsed. Ryan's colleagues left early. No goodbyes. No second helpings. Just a quiet exit with mumbled excuses. Alina tried to reframe it on the spot, of course. She's confused, she said to them. She's older. We've been trying to help. But the damage was done. They'd seen the documents, the charges, the text excerpts. No one believed it was help. Gloria tried to salvage it too. We've always had a complicated dynamic, she said. Voice syrupy. You know how older parents can be. But the more they talked, the more obvious it became this wasn't confusion. It was exposure. By the time the door closed behind the last guest, the table sat full but untouched. Wine warm. Napkins still folded. Gloria lit a cigarette on the balcony, furious, but pretending not to be. Alina paced the hallway. Ryan stood at the sink, rubbing his eyes like he could scrub the night off his face. I sat in Daniel's house, holding my coffee with both hands. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt still. Hours passed, no more messages. The silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. When I stood, Daniel looked at me. You okay? I nodded. They'll need time to understand what I did. But I didn't do it for them. He nodded back, didn't ask more. I rinsed my cup, dried it, set it beside the sink. Then I opened my folder one last time. Pulled out the envelope marked after the reveal. Inside were 2 smaller ones. One labeled next steps. One labeled let them respond. I left the first open. Closed the second. Tomorrow they would try to explain, reframe, soften, but the mask had slipped in front of witnesses. And you don't get to unpeel the truth once it's read aloud. The eviction notice came faster than I expected. Daniel sent me a photo of the envelope taped to their condo door. Red stamp. Final warning. I didn't flinch. I knew the numbers. I'd tracked the charges, the timelines. Alina's boutique card was tethered to my credit. Once I shut it down, her entire line of luxury partnerships collapsed. No more rental gowns. No more influencer perks. No more automatic approval through my FICO score. Ryan's side income had been tied to referrals, quiet favors I helped arrange years ago when he started at the clinic. After the dinner, those dried up. He wasn't being cut out. He was being phased out. They couldn't pay the rent. They tried calling. Once. Twice. Then texts. Ryan. Can we meet? Just to talk. I think you misunderstood a lot of what we were trying to do. I didn't reply. Alina. We're figuring things out, but maybe it would have been more productive to handle this quietly. I didn't reply. I was done responding to spin. Daniel knocked that afternoon with 2 coffees. I took mine, and we walked in silence toward the lake. The leaves were starting to turn gold, creeping into the edges. They're moving, he asked. Not yet, but soon. They know they're pretending they don't. He nodded, didn't press. Later that day, I called Louise Chan. No changes, I told her. I just want to make sure all assets stay where they are. They will, she said. They're untouchable now. I hung up and opened my calendar. No birthdays, no brunches, no obligations. For the first time in a long time, the space was mine. Across town, I imagined them scrambling. Gloria dialing favors, Alina sending polished emails, Ryan apologizing just enough to sound polite without admitting fault. But rent is due. Groceries don't wait. Landlords don't accept charm. And the safety net. That was me. And I cut it. Daniel brought in the mail, handed me a padded envelope. I opened it slowly. Inside, a watch. Ryan's. One I gave him when he graduated. Expensive, engraved. Stay grounded. No note. Just the watch. An apology without words. I left it on the table. That night, I sat on the porch with a blanket around my legs. The condo key was still in my drawer, but I no longer reached for it. I didn't wonder if the lights were on. I didn't care if the plants had died. They'd made choices. So had I. And now the silence felt clean. Not empty. Just clear. I signed the lease without fanfare. The condo was modest. 2 bedrooms. Clean tile. A window that caught morning light. It sat under the trust's name, no paper trail leading to me directly. I wired the first payment. No checks, no cosigners, no borrowed hands. I moved in on a Monday. Daniel helped carry boxes. 1 trip. No rush. By noon, everything was in place. No photos, no welcome mat, no announcement. I brewed coffee, pulled a chair to the window, and sat. My phone vibrated twice that day. Once from Gloria. Once from Ryan. I let both ring out. I didn't check the voicemails. The next morning, Alina tagged me in a photo, old brunch, all smiles. I removed the tag. No comment. No like. By Thursday, they'd stopped posting. The silence wasn't revenge. It was release. I didn't owe them explanations. I didn't crave their reactions. The quiet let the guilt echo on their end. They had no script for silence, no one to perform for. Daniel dropped off a spare key and left a potted basil plant on the counter. In case you decide to cook again, he said. I watered it the next morning, not because I needed to, but because it was mine. Each night I took a walk. No destination, just rhythm. No one followed. No one asked for updates. They weren't blocked, just ignored, and that made them restless. No one's more afraid than someone waiting to be punished and realizing it won't come. One day, Gloria sent a text. Let's be civil. The past is the past. I deleted it. No reply. A week later, Alina sent a photo of an ultrasound. No caption, no names, just an image. I stared at it, then archived it. Not because I didn't care, because I wasn't baited. Ryan called once more. Mid-afternoon, no voicemail. Just silence on the other end for 5 seconds before he hung up. I left the missed call untouched. In my new place, I made soup. I set 1 bowl. I ate slowly. The basil on the sill leaned toward the light. I didn't speak. I didn't post. I didn't respond. And they heard every second of it. I dumped the basket onto the floor. No silk, no perfume, no tags that cost a week's wages, just my things. Cotton shirts, soft socks, a worn cardigan. I sorted them anyway, old habit. Lights, darks, towels. Small piles on the tile. The washer hummed when I turned the dial. Fresh sound. Not the groan of the old machine. I poured detergent slow. The scent rose clean, not sweet. I closed the lid and listened to the water fill. For years, I'd done this for everyone else. Ryan's school uniforms, Robert's scrubs, Alina's dresses, even Gloria's scarves when she forgot them. Loads that weren't mine folded into neat stacks returned without thanks. Now just mine. I leaned against the counter and breathed. The new place smelled like fresh paint and paper. No framed photos yet. No voices echoing down the hall. Just the machine running steady and the coffee cooling on the table. I pulled out the small envelope I'd been keeping at the back of the drawer. The first tag, Mariette Noir. I held it between my fingers, the edges soft from handling. Then I tore it twice until it was shreds. Dropped them into the trash. I didn't need the evidence anymore. The bank accounts were locked, the trust sealed, the safe deposit box full. Louise Chan had copies of everything. What I kept now wasn't proof. It was space. The washer clicked into rinse. Water shifted. I reached for the mug and took a sip. No messages came through, no knocks, no texts asking for help, no demands wrapped in Mom. I opened the window, let the air in. The curtains lifted, fell back. The machine beeped. Cycle done. I lifted each piece of clothing out, warm and heavy, and shook it once before folding. No special handling, no care tags to read, just fabric, plain and simple. I stacked the shirts in a neat pile, then the towels. The basket filled quick. I smiled faintly. Not because it was done, because it was mine. No one would take these clothes. No one would claim them as a favor owed. I carried the basket to the bedroom. Put everything away in drawers that held only my things. Then I walked back to the kitchen and poured the last of the coffee into my mug. The sun had shifted, laying a stripe of light across the floor. I followed it to the chair by the window and sat. Daniel's spare key lay on the sill next to the basil plant, a quiet reminder. Tomorrow I would wake up here again, my home, my time, my load, and in the morning light I would reach for the mug waiting on the counter. I poured the coffee slow, no rush, no voices behind me, no clatter of dishes I didn't use, just steam curling from the pot and the faint creak of floorboards under my feet. The mug waited by the window, chipped on one side, handle worn smooth. I wrapped both hands around it and stepped into the morning. Light spilled across the kitchen tiles, soft and honest. I stood there and let it hit my face. The mug read, "Still the Mother." Not a title anyone gave back. Not something they etched on plaques or printed on envelopes, but true. Still the mother even when I stopped giving. Still the mother even after I said no. Still the mother on my terms now. The condo was quiet. No texts came in. None needed answering. The group chat had fallen silent weeks ago. I hadn't left it. I'd just stopped replying. Daniel would come by later with bread and stories. He always brought both. But now it was just me. Coffee, morning, peace. Outside, a young couple walked past the window. Their laughter carried unburdened. No masks, no strategy, no weight in their eyes. I didn't envy them. I didn't mourn what I'd lost. I had done what most won't. Pulled the roots out myself. Let the silence settle where noise used to live. The accounts were safe. The trust held. The house was no longer at risk. My life finally unleveraged. I sipped. Let the heat hold in my throat. The chair by the window creaked as I sat. A small notebook rested on the table beside me. Inside it, dates, names, reminders I no longer needed. I flipped to the last page. Wrote one sentence, I kept the name. I just stopped giving it away. I closed the notebook and slid it into the drawer. Outside, the light kept rising. Not fast, not loud, but steady. I leaned back, let it find me, let it stay.